Hello, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is one of my favorite shows. It's the Author's Corner, Meet the Author. We get to meet some truly outstanding individuals that are extremely creative. And so those of you that don't know me, I am Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building. And our station is called GoingSoloMedia.com. Our website's right up there. You can find all of our other wonderful hosts and all of their information there. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube and on about eight other platforms now at the moment. And we will be dropped down into our live streaming radio station and then played on other affiliates. So I want to welcome you if you're listening to the show anywhere else. We love having you. We truly do. So let's get right on to our subject today. We have a wonderful gentleman here with us, Maxwell Ivey. Maxwell, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me on this show. And something I should have asked you sooner, how do I pronounce your name?
My name is Cece.
Cece, okay.
Cece Shatz, yes.
Well, I sometimes get in trouble if I depend on my screen reader to pronounce a name like that for me. So it's good to be with you again, Cece.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice to have you. Now, Maxwell, you're fondly called the blind blogger, and you are also an inspirational coach. You're a motivational speaker. You're really a self-help author, an online media superhero, and podcast host yourself. So let's talk about that superhero, because that really stuck out for me. How'd you get to be called a superhero?
I felt kind of cheeky that day and wrote it down instead of publicist. But it's basically because, for 8 years now, pretty much I'd say at least 2/3 of what I do has to do with podcasting, either as the host of What's Your Excuse, or helping other people gain exposure for themselves and their creative works by booking them on podcasts and promoting their podcast interviews, or now being an instructor teaching people how to be great podcast guests. It just seemed like writing podcast guest, instructor, booker, coach, and promoter just didn't seem like too many words. So I thought, well, what can I say instead? And since, I know you've seen my logo artwork where it shows me in a silhouette and a superhero cape, and because a lot of people think that I'm bigger than life online, I thought, well, why not just try this one time and see what kind of reaction we get.
It's fun, and I think in business, we have to enjoy ourselves, we have to be able to do that. And you do so much to help other people. And I just want to thank you for that, because you've reached out to me. We've talked, on the phone, and then here you've been gracious enough to be here with me on the station. But you've also referred me to some really great potential hosts that are going to come on our station. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I've been helped along my way by so many people that I just do my best when I can to repay all those great people who helped me get from where I was to where I'm at now. And the thing that I do best is generally has something to do with podcasting or radio or television. So I'm happy that the people I've forwarded to you or introduced you to, I'm happy they've been, good fits, let's say. I feel like, in business, they say if you want to come to somebody's attention, the best thing you can do is solve a problem for them, or answer a question, or just be a good friend to other people that are in business online, even if they're in the same market as you are, even if they can sometimes be seen as competitors to you. If you can solve their problem, they'll remember it. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten great emails from a host who will be like, Max, where did you find this person? And I'll be like, well, they're just one of my friends. And a lot of times what will happen is I'll see a host and I'll go, that show sounds great, but I don't have anybody that's a current client or an immediate friend who would be a good fit. So I just start looking around to see, who do I know? Who do I know that knows somebody? And usually I can come up with a couple of names. A few months back, a friend of mine, he hosts a show. He was looking for a pornography addiction expert. And it took me a week, but I found him a pornography addiction expert. And I can't tell you how happy he is with me because I was able to get him somebody perfect for the show he was booking.
Well, you're so right. I mean, I have been helped. I mean, to start out, when I started out doing this by myself, really going solo, Chuck helped me tremendously. And Chuck Bryant, I could never repay him for all that he did, just setting me up and the encouragement and the kick in the butt to do it, And he's done that a few times. Every now and then he'll call me up and he'll kick me in the butt again about something else. But we just need that. We need good, solid friends in our lives. So that is great. So let's tell the audience a little bit about how you started, because you've got a really cool background. How you started doing what you do now. You were in the carnival at one time, you were saying?
Yes, yeah. I come from a family of carnival owners, and I have a cousin who is still operating, I would say, a fairly large-sized show that travels from Corpus Christi to Nebraska and back every year. They've had a hard last year or so because of COVID, but they're in Texarkana, Texas this week or last week, so they're getting their stuff back to normal. And it's where I come from, but me and our family, we weren't able to keep our show going after my dad passed away in 2003. So by 2007, I knew I needed to do something else. And really at that time, I didn't have too high of an opinion of myself as far as what I was capable of. I felt like the only thing I knew how to do was to help people sell used rides. So I started a website called Midway Marketplace, where I still help people buy, sell, and trade used amusement equipment. I do appraisals, and I have a lot of links on there to vendors and to amusement companies all over the world. So it was a big time learning process, because in 2007 I didn't have any money, skills, talent, or experience. It was before WordPress, Wi-Fi, or Facebook, and I had to learn how to hand code HTML just to get my website online in the beginning, which is, for people who know about that stuff, they'll realize just how hard that was. And then I had to recruit clients to a new website and set fees and do a lot of the other things you do as a business owner. And then they came along and they started saying, Max, the way you take on these difficult challenges with joy is very inspiring. We want you to share more of your story of being a blind entrepreneur. And that led to me starting theblindblogger.net, where I share my experiences and the life lessons people can take from them. I write about events I see out in the world and what lessons people can draw from them. I share about my podcast interviews, like there'll be a blog post about, me coming on your author's corner, and then I write about my own show, What's Your Excuse? So and as a result of having that website, I've since written 4 self-help books. I've traveled the country solo. I've sung in public, done public speaking, spoken at national conferences, actually. I've helped other people get on podcasts, radio, and TV shows. I'm finding great joy in teaching people how to be great guests, and just really not sure what the next thing is going to be. Well, actually, I do know. I'm working on launching my own network, as a matter of fact, to help other blind people either start or grow existing podcasts. So I'm hoping to learn something from you, Cece, before, maybe after the show, you can give me a couple pointers.
I'd be happy to share anything with you. Yeah, I love the idea that you are creative, because you don't let your disabilities, whatever they are, because we all seem to have things, but we don't let those get in our way of achieving what it is what our end goal is, and we just had a wonderful show on previous to this on the Business Showcase, and really talking about the mindset, and Hirsch had a show on regarding, you're really like a purposeful mindset, being mindful. And, when I think about these shows, they seem to be coming towards, all kind of coming together, and then embracing you and what you do and how you help other people. It just seems like it's all evolving. You know what I mean? Things happen in your life that we're all touched, and so it's a blessing, really, that you are where you're at now and where I think you're going to be going is, embracing those, and sharing your journey, how you've gotten to where you are, and in the encouragement.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, there's a reason why my theme song is The River by Garth Brooks. And it's the song I usually sing when I talk or when I do my podcast, is because it's such a great metaphor for the fact that very little that I have done or that has happened to me has been planned. A lot of it was just somebody coming along at the right time and making a suggestion or offering a challenge and going from there. I really felt like I would be a carnival owner the rest of my life. Then I felt like I would be an equipment broker the rest of my life. And, now I'm really not sure, but there are a lot of possibilities and opportunities, and most of it really just comes from having a childlike approach to the world, to your life, to the idea that whenever you get up in the morning, there could be something or somebody that's going to come into your day that's going to change where you are from where you thought you were going when you went to bed and where you think you're going at the end of today. So I keep myself open. I like to say that that God has bigger plans and dreams than I do. So I try not to get too set in where I think I'm going. And like I say, the river is a great metaphor for me, and I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah. It's just being creative. And I love what you said too about, and again, we talked about it in the last show, is that when those opportunities come into our lives, you're not afraid to grab a hold of them and say, okay, I'll take the challenge. Let's try it out. And that's pretty cool, because not everyone does that. I mean, not they put their fear ahead of what they could possibly do, and you have not done that. You've definitely moved forward in a very giant way, and it's so I could definitely see you making a tremendous impact in the blind world with connecting and helping and supporting those with the challenge like that, because you haven't given up, and look where you are now. It's pretty awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's really cool. I know. Who would have thought, right? I remember, I think I shared this with you when we were talking the first time. I remember the first time I did a podcast, right? No one could see me. It's podcast. They don't see you. And I remember we had to take a break because I was going to pass out my first one. I was so nervous. It's funny. But
yeah, but when I recorded my first video, it was to promote the Midway Marketplace. It was before I started as the blind blogger. But I wasn't nervous about recording that video because I didn't think of it as a podcast, or I just thought I was going to record this video to try to tell people about a piece of equipment that I wanted to sell so that I could help the owner, who was a small business owner that needed to exchange that unneeded piece of equipment for some money. So I didn't have the same fear that you did, or that a lot of podcasters did, because of the language I used. I unknowingly lied to myself. I didn't realize that I was telling myself a story, that all I was doing was recording a video, and I would find out later that I was doing a podcast. So I'm impressed that you did finish, even if you had to take a break. But I also think that a lot of times we get scared because of the way we talk about something, and a lot of times we build up something into our minds where it's scarier than it ought to be, just because of the words we use.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we start playing the head game, right? Where we're thinking like, what will people think? What will people think of us? And you allow that to get in the way and stop you from what you're capable of doing. And I love all that you do. I mean, your podcast, I want to make sure I put it up here for everybody. It's What's Your Excuse? And, I wrote on what you had wrote me and said, he lives to force you to ask yourself the question, what's my excuse? And so often that is exactly what we need to ask ourselves. Well, that's holding us back from doing what it is that our life, end result can be. We stand in our own way, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, and to take this back to the author corner, when I published my first book, Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light: A Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success, I had finished the writing of that book 6 months or more before it was published. But I kept telling myself, Max, this book isn't long enough. It isn't big enough. The stories aren't good enough. And in effect, saying to myself, you're not good enough. So what makes you think you should publish this book? So in the background, I'm sharing the manuscript with friends that I trust. And eventually I shared it with a coach out in California who's like, Max, this is a great book. She said, I printed it out so that I could carry it around with me. And she said, it's the perfect size to fit in my purse so that I can highlight the passages I need to remind myself of and, pull it out when I'm having a bad moment in my day. She said, I know who your editor is. I had mentioned my editor, Lorraine, regularly at wordingwell.com. I had mentioned her in a couple of previous blog posts. So this lady, she says, I know who your editor is. And if you don't send this off so you can start the publishing process, I'm going to send it to her for you. And that finally convinced me that it was good enough. So we sent it off, and Lorraine did her magic, and she, made it much more visually appealing without taking out the voice that is Max Ivey and the Blind Blogger, and turned it into a great book. It's 82 pages. It is a very powerful, life-changing book. And it's, it sneaks up on people because when they see it on the shelf, it's like, this isn't a book. It looks more like maybe a big pamphlet. And it is very approachable, is another word I've heard used about the book when people see it in print. And it has 11 practical exercises that I use in my own life every day. It has blank space where people can write down their answers to the same questions. It has my email address so that if they want to, they can write to me and share their progress or complain about their lack of progress or ask my opinion if they want to, because I really wanted this book to help people in a way that most other self-help books don't. And so it was a really great book, but it was a book that I kept in my computer for over 6 months because I just couldn't see myself or the book being good enough. And so, a couple of things here. One, size and page length has nothing to do with the value or the importance of your work. And two, if you don't have at least one person in your life that will tell you to get over yourself and put this out in the world, then you need to go find one.
Yeah, that is great. So tell us again the title of that book.
Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light: A Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success. That was my first book.
Yeah. And then you've written, how many books have you written? Like 4, right?
I've written 4, and I'm working on the 5th, which will be the third and final part of my travel series that I've been working on. So after Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, I wrote It's Not the Cookie, It's the Bag, which shares my experiences, thoughts, and feelings as I was preparing to have gastric surgery, having the surgery, and then changing my life, as well as changing my attitude towards myself. So the book has some very applicable chapters in it for people that are trying to get healthier, such as modern meditation, which is my take on how you can use everyday mundane tasks or things that you enjoy doing to focus your mind and help you come to solutions. The main chapter, It's Not the Cookie, It's the Bag, talks about how it's not the fact that you have a cookie, it's the fact that if you buy a bag of Oreos, there's 60 cookies in a bag. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the cookie. The problem is we bring home too many of them at one time. So
right.
So those are putting your health on your calendar, making it part of your schedule, like everything else that you think is important. So those are some of the ideas in the book, and like I say, it's called It's Not the Cookie, It's the Bag. And then I started my travel series quite accidentally. I competed for and won one of the Amtrak Riders in Residence, and I used my prize to go to New York City during the Christmas and New Year's holidays of 2016, 2017. And I wrote about what made me decide to compete, how I competed, how I decided where I was going to go, where the money came from, how I overcame the fear of going by myself, and the fear of all the unrest that was going on in the country at the time. You know, just lots of things that I hope helps other people. And then in that book, each chapter ends with what we call key takeaways. And some people, what they have done is they will take the key takeaways from each chapter and copy them into a file and print them out and keep them with them, because they're, you know, some great, you know, like small bits of advice or wisdom that, you know, people can refer back to during their day. So that book had the key takeaways, and I tell people it's a combination of my wide-eyed, childlike approach to the world, where everything is an experience, and my brutal honesty, where I will share the good and the bad, even if it doesn't make me look so good, because I feel like everything is an opportunity to help other people, and some of the best lessons we teach at our worst. You know, if we can avoid the desire to hide our worst days from people that we're trying to help, then we don't make them feel like they're a failure because they have bad days.
Point taken. That's very good.
And I mean, so you know, there are a lot of people. I know you know this. There are a lot of social media imposters who never let their followers see their bad days, or who let their followers believe that they're doing this all by themselves. You know, if you noticed, you mentioned Chuck Ryan, and I've already mentioned Lorraine regularly. We've mentioned between us at least 2 people that have helped us do what we're doing. But there are so many gurus and coaches and internet stars who, if you didn't know better, and if you didn't bother to look, you wouldn't know that there's, you know, a team of, you know, a handful or dozens behind them getting the work done. So,
oh yeah, I mean, like just the station alone. I mean, there are so many. You know, Christopher Kit Smith. There's all of the hosts. Every single host does their own show. They do all of their work. The work that they put in, and people don't realize the work that gets put in on each show. It's tremendous. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people that help you and connect with you that really do change your life, really shifts your life to the path that you're going on. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the most recent book is The Blind Blogger's First Speaking and Signing Adventures, How You Can Conquer Your Fears. And I didn't mention the title of the third book. I'm sorry about that. It's called The Blind Blogger's New York City Adventures, How You Can Make Your Dreams Come True. And then, like I say, the most recent one is The Blind Blogger's First Speaking and Signing Adventures, How to Conquer Your Fears. And it covers my travels during the summer of 2017, when I made my first trip to go out and promote myself and my books by doing book signings and public speaking. And, you know, it talks about how the trip came about, how it went from one speaking event to a 6-week trip because of people in my online community who stepped up and offered and invited and encouraged me to do more than just the one-off. And again, where the money came from, how I faced my fears, even the fact that my favorite part of that book, and I think the most important part for a lot of people who either want to be public speakers or have done public speaking and they're like, I know its value, but that scares the heck out of me and I'm not doing it again. And so my favorite chapter is where I talk about the fact that I was not always this person who was confident or comfortable talking in front of other people, whether that be small groups or a full hall, and how, you know, I had to get to that point, and some of the events that allowed me to grow to the point where I could walk down to the microphone and have other speakers complain that it didn't look like I was nervous at all, and it looked like this was just another day for Max Ivey, you know. So that's my favorite chapter, you know, that I wasn't always a confident speaker and how I got to that point.
Yeah, and that's really a huge step. I mean, certainly can relate to that too, about, you know, it just kind of evolves to the more you do and the more you believe in what you're doing, takes that fear away, right? Opens the door for you to be able to take that extra step, that little step more, where it's like baby steps, still a little bit more each time. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I talked to a host a while back. He said, a lot of people talk about leaving their jobs and starting a business or going to college or what. He said they all talk about it as taking the leap and jumping off a cliff. And he said, what would you tell those people? I said, I would tell them to start with I would tell them to start with a cliff that's closest to the ground.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I would tell them to do. So what you were saying is exactly right. We start with small things. And while I didn't join Toastmasters till recently, I finally joined a Toastmasters group because it's a virtual group and because I feel like you can never get to that point where you can't learn something new or something different from people who really know what they're doing. So, but Toastmasters is a great place because you have the opportunity to do short 2-minute talks that they call table talks on really fun subjects, and then gradually get to where you do 5 and 7-minute talks, and then eventually where you do a 15 or a 30-minute talk. So that's an example of somewhere people could go. But I think a lot of it just comes down to seeing everyday opportunities as opportunities for you to grow. For example, I know that in a few weeks you're going to interview my friend Adriana Gavazzoni, who's an author of legal thrillers from Brazil.
Right, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite people. She saw so much in me before so many other people did, and she's always been one of my favorite cheerleaders. And she's like, Max, eventually one of us is going to walk the red carpet at the Oscars or the Emmys or at the Webbies or something. And she said, you're going to be my plus one, or I'm going to be your plus one. She's just that kind of person. Mm-hmm. And she said that, when she was writing all those legal briefs and making oral arguments as a lawyer, she saw everything she did as storytelling, as an exercise in getting better in telling a story to the judge, the jury, to the prosecuting attorney. And so that's an example that comes to my mind when I say that there are opportunities in your daily life, and a lot of times even things you don't think about as opportunities for growth, and they're there if you just will be, keep your heart and mind open to look for them and then take advantage of them. So I challenge people to go through your day, take a piece of paper or open a Word document and go through your day and write down your experiences and think to yourself, what did I do today that I can use as a learning experience and that I can make part of my routine that is a learning experience that will prepare me to write that first book or give that first speech or address the board of directors or the management council or whatever for the first time. And there are so many opportunities in our daily lives, but most of the time we're so busy getting to the next thing that we don't really appreciate them. We don't learn the lessons they were there to teach us. And so that's why I'm a big fan of lists, especially writing them down physically to begin with until you get good at it. And then, you can go to doing it mentally. And I guarantee you, if somebody sits down and goes through their day and thinks about all the experiences they had during that day, they're going to find at least one thing that they did that is growth oriented, that made them better or could make them better if they do it more often.
Yeah, you're so right with that. We're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this subject because I think you're so spot on with it. But today we have Maxwell Ivey with us. He's the blind blogger. He is also he has a podcast, which is called What's Your Excuse? And we're really excited about having him on here. He's a self-help author, motivated speaker, online media superhero, and we believe that's to be true. So we are so excited to have him on here with us. We're going to take a quick break, guys, and when we come right back, we're going to talk a little bit more, and we're just enjoying the show so much. So thank you so much, Max. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, you guys. We're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the Author's Corner, Meet the Author. We have a wonderful guest here with us today. We have Maxwell Ivey, the blind blogger. We've been talking about all kinds of things, plus his exciting books. He's got like 4 different books, and he's writing another book. I mean, wealth of information. Such an inspiration you are, Max. And just thank you so much for being on the show here with us today. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Cece. I appreciate the opportunity. I like to remind podcast and radio hosts that if it wasn't for people like y'all, there really wouldn't be the blind blogger or no excuses or what's your excuse, because I wouldn't have had the opportunities to build my brand, to share my story with so many people over the years without you. So thank you.
Oh, very sweet of you. Thank you so much. You know, it is true that the industry itself, the podcast industry, now we call it internet TV. The internet has really opened the door to a lot of individuals that wouldn't have been seen or heard. I mean, their books wouldn't have been shared as easily, their information. And what we try to capture on our shows, and I think you probably do the same thing when you're talking with the individuals, is not just about what they created, but the story and the individual themselves behind it. Because that is the true joy, is understanding the individual, that the challenges and the creativeness behind what they've actually set out to do, and then the victory of achieving that goal is truly a blessing. So your books are amazing because they definitely help people, for sure.
Right. Well, thank you. And, you know, what you were saying about interviews, I agree with you. There are far too many people who come on a show only to sell their book or promote their film or their album or whatever. And what people need to realize, and what I'm sure your audience knows, is it's all about the story that the person themselves comes with. And I tell my students all the time, it doesn't matter. You know, they're not going to book you. They're not going to book your product or service. They are going to book or hire your story. So I know this is Author's Corner, but I mean, for those of you listening who aren't authors, if you're a business owner or plan to be, you know, if you are a public speaker, the way you get people to pay attention is sharing your story openly and honestly and often. And coming on, you know, shows like this and being willing to answer whatever questions the host has, and, you know, to really dig deep down into yourself and share as much of the story as you're able to at that moment and as time permits. So yeah, it is all about storytelling, and today it's so much more about telling your personal story and then telling your business story.
Yeah, you're so right. It's really about creating that connection with the audience, because that being able to relate, that relatability is truly key. And I know that many authors we have on that are really geared towards, you know, their book and all that kind of stuff. And then I slow them down and we talk about them. And we talk about, why did you write this book, and what happened when you were writing it, and how did you feel about that? And you can just see a whole shift in the way they present it. And it truly is. I mean, many times I have gotten off the interview because I'm not always able to read all the books that are presented. And many times I get off the interview and wanting to buy the book myself, because I made such a connection with the person that I know this is a good book and that I will definitely have a takeaway from it. And so it truly is the key to it. And so I'm so pleased that you understand that, and you help people to feel comfortable with sharing that part of themselves.
Right. And it does take effort. And just like we were talking about, it takes small steps to become a speaker. It also takes small steps to get comfortable sharing your story. But here's the thing that I run into the most with people, and I find it's worse with business people than with creative people, because business people are so much more worried about their professional image than creatives are, is getting them over this idea that people are going to think less of them if they share who they really are. You know, it's just such a hard thing to get people to understand, but it's not. It's one of those things. The more of yourself you're willing to let the people out here in the audience see and come to know, the deeper the connection that they can make with you, the more they will want to like you. And of course, we know if we can get them to like us, then we can usually get them to trust us, and beyond trust, in that when they need, or when they want a great book, or when they need a great provider, they will come back to you. But it all starts with your story, being honest and vulnerable, and being willing, showing the courage, the guts to take the chance of letting people see you at maybe not your absolute best, but at least at your absolute most true.
Yes, yeah, being authentic. That's so true. I think with the pandemic that really brought out a lot of people being authentic, because a lot of individuals were having to record from their homes. You were getting all the broadcasters, right, going to their homes, and then you'd see their dog, jumping on them, or you hear their dogs bark. The kids that come through, crashing through their house, or
Yes,
whatever.
yes,
And
yes.
and they were embarrassed by that. But what it made them, and what it made for us, was that they're real people, and they get up in the morning just like we do, and they have some of the same challenges that we do. And now when I actually watch the news, I really, feel like I've connected more with the broadcasters and things like that. I don't watch the news all that much, but when I do, I feel more of a kinship with them. And so, yeah, I think the internet has really opened the doors to a lot of things, and being authentic is one of those true things. And you definitely are authentic.
Well, thank you. Well,
You
thank you. I
just,
appreciate that. The other thing this pandemic has done, and like you said, we've got people doing shows from their homes instead of doing them from their fancy studios with hundreds of minions. The one thing the thing I think it has really helped is the number of people who used to say, I can't have a podcast or a radio show or an internet TV show because I'm just not good enough. I don't have the technology. I don't have the editing skills. And then, when you see these national and international broadcasting people, like your nightly news people, like people on Sirius XM and on Westwood One, you see these people who, without all their technology, are screwing it up big time, just like the rest of us will. It has freed so many people from that idea that there's no way they could be good enough to be on air.
yeah, yeah. It is amazing. It totally is amazing. I have a green screen, and I've done it a couple times, especially when I was first moving. I had boxes all over the place. So I put the green screen up and put this really nice picture up, and everybody goes, "Oh, wow, your kitchen's really nice," and all this. It's like, it's not. And now it's still a little messy. I'm still working on it, but it's just, I wanted to be authentic, because this, I know, is what our audience enjoys. They enjoy people being real, because they have to get up just like we do every morning. They have to face challenges just like we do. And they want to know that there's someone out there that's got their back, that
Yeah,
has been sharing that
yeah.
experience and uplift them, in true essence. So, yeah. So you're a blessing. So again, I want to share with everyone your website. Let me make sure I put that up so they have it.
Sure. It's
And it's pretty easy.
theblindblogger.net.
Yeah,
Yeah.
blindblogger.net. So I'm going to spell it for those when we go on the audio. It's TheBlindBlogger.net, N-E-T. So make sure that, and all your books are right on there. So if
Yes, ma'am.
if anybody wants to buy your book, they can go right on there and buy your book. Are your books also on Amazon?
Yes, my Amazon page is under Maxwell Ivey, my Amazon authors page. So, but the great thing about having a name like the Blind Blogger is, and using it in my book titles, people can search for the Blind Blogger on Amazon. It'll take them right to my books.
Right. And Google, you can just find it right on Google.
Yeah. Google, theblindblogger.net/store or /books and Amazon. So we're out there, and of course, if people want signed copies, they can reach out to me directly through my email, justask@theblindblogger.net, and we will definitely available to do signed copies of the books, and also, of course, available to do public talks either virtually or in person. You know, the pandemic the restrictions have pretty much been lifted in Texas, and it looks like a lot of the U.S. is starting to get straightened out again. So, but you know, virtually, in person, I love sharing my experiences with people, and I'm known for, I make them laugh, I make them learn, and at the end I sing them a little song or two, so it's a great 45 minutes or hour if somebody's looking for like a dinner or a lunch talk for their conference or their organization. Just like I say, just ask at theblindblogger.net. And I also want to make sure people understand, especially your audience, because I do this for your listeners. I want this to bring value to your show. So if people are listening out there and they need some help, or they have some questions, or they just want to say, hi, I think I'd like to have you in my circle, just go ahead and reach out to me, because I'm not one of those people that you have to be ready to book, buy from, or hire in order to talk to. I honestly believe that every time I meet somebody, it's an opportunity for something amazing to happen. So I do hope people listening will visit the website or reach out to me directly. And also, I want to remember to say thanks to you, Cece, because this has been a real pleasure. And every time I do this, I learn something, and I also feel better. You know, there's a definite emotional value to having conversations with real people about things you care deeply about. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I thank you so much. It's an honor, a true honor to have you here with us. And I love what you do. You know, you inspire people each and every day. You've been able to really make your life work and really have a purpose to it. And that's a blessing, a total blessing. And so that's wonderful. And I want to thank you personally for sharing some of these wonderful authors and individuals that I think will be such an inspiration to our network here. And again, if you need help setting up your network, I'd love to be able to share in that and be part of that. We would love to be able to connect and support you and everyone out there as much as possible.
Well, thank you.
That's great. Well, the time has gone by quick, so we're going to have to leave. But again, the website is theblindblogger.net. We have our wonderful guest here with us today, Maxwell Ivey, the Blind Blogger. You know, he's got a lot of stuff going on. So again, you can Google him if you can't remember the website or whatever. But he is a self-help author, motivational speaker, online media superhero. Got a wonderful podcast himself. So why don't you join him and listen to that. It's called What's Your Excuse? I'd like to hear what your excuse is, because it'll be quite interesting to be able to turn some of those excuses into a positive movement, right?
Exactly, yes.
I love that. All right, guys. Again, his website's theblindblogger.net. Maxwell, thank you so much for being on the show with us. We appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Guys, I mean, I can't believe how the time has gone by so quickly. We had a wonderful show here on the Author's Corner, Meet the Author. What a great individual Maxwell Ivey is, the Blind Blogger. And again, he has like 4 different books out there. He's writing books all the time. I can't wait to find out what his next step is going to be. I'm building a network. That's pretty exciting. So we want to be able to back him up, give him the support he needs to be able to do that. So let's all join forces and be able to do that, give him the support that he needs. So again, his website's theblindblogger.net. Reach out to him, let him know that you heard the show and that you want to give him the inspiration that he's sharing and giving to other people. Again, this is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am Cece Shatz, your host, the Doyenne of Relationship Building. Our website is goingsolomedia.com. Please support us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Send us a message if you'd like at goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. We'd love to get your emails and to contact us any way possible. Place comments on, let us know you're listening, what you'd like to hear, and let's support our authors because it's very important that their message gets across and we help each other as we move forward in life. Love you guys. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.